we are shown a linear function here in the graph, and we're asked for the slope, the y-intercept, and the x-intercept. Now, we might be able to just figure out the slope from the graph. That's not too bad. But the y-intercept and x-intercept, no luck, because first of all, the x-intercept isn't even on the graph. I can't see it. And the y-intercept, if you look really close, you might think, well, maybe it's about 5.5, but it's not exactly. Maybe 5.6 or 5.7 or something. So I need a way of finding exactly what the y-intercept and x-intercept are, not really using the graph to help me out. In other words, I need an equation. So let's tackle that slope part first. If you remember what slope is, do you remember the phrase rise over run? We're going to look at how high this thing goes up, that's its rise, 2 units, and how far it goes over, 3 units. So in other words, the slope is just 2/3. Now I'm going to use that to figure out the next part, which is just an equation for this function. I'm going to start here with my mx plus b form. If you remember, that is m slope and b y-intercept. We're going to start plugging in values that I can use to figure out the stuff I want, basically. So let's start with this point right here at, let's see, it looks like that is -4 in x and 3 in y. We're going to start with that one and plug that in here. See, the y value is 3. M, we just figured out a little bit ago, that's 2/3. And the x value is -4. Okay, so I just plugged in everything I know about this, and I'm going to figure out what b is. But first I need to multiply everything by 3 from the looks of it to get rid of that 3 in the denominator. It's kind of annoying. So this is what we get now. And now I'm just going to move things over. I'm just going to do a little algebra, and we get 9 equals -8 plus 3b. I'm going to add 8 to each side, and then divide each side by 3, and I get 17/3 equals b. This is kind of why we were having a hard time with that y-intercept, because it's gross. It's not a nice number. It's just 17/3. Okay, so 17/3 is my y-intercept value. Sometimes fractions happen. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means the problem was set up kind of gross. Now for the x-intercept. How are we going to figure that out? Well, let's take our equation, and we're going to add this new information to it. I already knew that the slope was 2/3. Okay, so y equals 2/3 x. And now I know that b, or in other words, the y-intercept, is 17/3. So that's our equation. This describes the line in every direction, and I need to figure out what the x-intercept is. Well, if you think about what the x-intercept is, this is where y equals 0. That is the definition of the x-intercept, because that's where the function is going to cross that flat line that I just drew. Okay, that's the x-axis. So plug in y equals 0, and let's figure out what x is. Okay, now I just need to do a little algebra. So I'm going to multiply everything by 3, just to make this easier. 0 equals 2x plus 17. And now I'm going to subtract 17 over here, and then divide everything by 2. So there's my x-intercept. And I realize now that I'm being a little bit sloppy in how I write this stuff. I shouldn't say that the y-intercept is 17/3. That's the value at the y-intercept. What I should really say, if I want to put this in as a coordinate point, is x equals 0, y equals 17/3. That's a coordinate point. That's the y-intercept. And the x-intercept, likewise, is not -17/2. It's -17/2, comma, 0. That's the x-intercept.